All right, welcome to the second half of the notes from section 4-3, solving equations graphically. We're going to start out here. This is like the third page of the notes if you're using the notes packet. It says, letter A, solve algebraically using any method of your choice. So we've got the quantity of x plus 1 squared minus 2 equals 7. I'm going to solve it algebraically. I'm going to isolate the quantity there. I'm going to add 2 to each side. I have the quantity of x plus 1 squared equals 9. I'm going to take the square root of each side to undo our squaring. So then I've got the absolute value of x plus 1 is equal to 3. And we should know that x plus 1 could then either equal 3 or x plus 1 could equal negative 3. So that leaves us with x equaling 2. Or x is going to equal negative 4. And letter B now says check your answers. Okay, so they want us to check our answers by setting it equal to 0 and then graphing and finding the x-intercepts. So you can use a graphing calculator if you wish, but we spent a lot of time graphing so that we could graph without them if needed. So to set it equal to 0, I'm going to go ahead here and subtract 7 from each side. Right now I have the quantity of x plus 1 squared minus 9 equals 0. I'm going to treat it like it's the function y equals x plus 1 squared minus 9. So I know my locator point is at the point negative 1, negative 9. Let's go ahead and plot that on here. So we've got negative 1, negative 9 is right down here. This parabola has standard growth, so we should know that we can graph it by going to the right 1, up 1. We'll reflect that across the axis of symmetry. To the right 2, up 2 squared. We'll reflect that. If we go to the right 3, 1, 2, 3, we're going to go up 3 squared, which is 9. That should take us all the way up to the x-axis there. We'll reflect that. And you could go farther, but I think we've got what we need here. If we take it here and we graph it, right, it intersects that x-axis at 2, and it intersects the x-axis at negative 4. Well, we see above that our answer was x equals 2 and x equals negative 4. Okay, so that means it was right. Where can you find the solutions on your graph? Well, when we set it equal to 0, and I'm trying to emphasize that, when we set equal to 0, okay, when we set it equal to 0, that means that our solutions will be on the x-axis. Those are our x-intercepts. So one more time, when we set that equation equal to 0, and then we take it and graph it there, our solutions are the x-intercepts. Okay, let's look at C here. We're going to look at it from a different standpoint. It says check your answers by graphing the equation as a system to find the x-coordinates of its intersection points. Okay, so what we're going to do with our original equation there, we had the x plus 1 quantity squared minus 2 equals 7. We're going to break it apart here and graph each of them as its own function. I wrote y there. I actually meant to write 7. I don't know why I wrote y. So this actually is going to be 7. And I'll graph that one in green so you can kind of see where each one's coming from. So the equations or the functions that we're graphing here are y or f of x equals the quantity of x plus 1 squared minus 2. And the second one is y equals 7. So we'll graph the quadratic one first. Our locator point is at negative 1, negative 2. It's got standard growth again, so it's over 1, up 1. each direction, over 2 up, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then over 3 up, 9. Should take you all the way up to positive 7 when you do that one. All right, we'll graph that parabola in here. And it's important that you're accurate, because if you're not accurate, you're not going to see the solution. Now our second equation here that we're graphing is y equals 7. And remember, this one is just going to end up being a horizontal line. Remember, our slope here is 0. So we graph that here. It's going to go right across there. And you will see that our intersection points are here and here, where x is going to equal 2, and our x value equals negative 4. So it asks, are there any extraneous solutions? No, there are no extraneous solutions. Our solution to the system or solutions to the system is going to be the point negative 4, 7 and 2, 7. However, the solutions to the equation, which is what we're actually shooting for here, are going to be negative 4 and 2. Those are the solutions to the equation. Remember, when you look back at your original equation, okay, the original equation we started with all the way back up here at the top, you ask yourself, how many variables are in there? It's just x. So when it's asking in the grand scheme of all the stuff that we've done here, what's the solution? It was an equation with an x in it there. Our solution are just those values of x. Okay, let's move on here to the last part. Now take your time. You can totally pause the video and work this out on your own, and then fast forward through afterward to see if you got it right or wrong. You don't have to listen to me go the whole way through it if you feel like you're getting a grasp on it there. There may be a little bit of a tricky part, but let's get started and see how we do. So same setup here as the last one. We said letter A, solve algebraically using any method of your choice. For me, I've got a square root of 5x plus 6 equals x. Since the square root's by itself, I'm going to go ahead here and square both sides. We have 5x plus 6 equals x squared. Now, since it's quadratic, we're going to set it equal to 0. I'm going to subtract the 5x and the 6 from each side. So we should have 0 equals x squared minus 5x minus 6. We'll factor that. We should end up with factors of 6 that differ by 5. So that's going to be 6 and 1. So we need x minus 6 and x plus 1. We'll use that zero product property to finish solving them here. We'll get x equals negative 1, or x will end up equaling 6. Now, letter B says check your answer by setting equal to 0 and graphing to find the x-intercepts of the function. Okay, so this is the one where we want to set it equal to 0, and we're going to be looking at what the x-intercepts are. That should help us to see, our solutions. Now this function in particular here, because we have the square root of 5x plus 6 equals x, when we go and set this equal to 0, I'm going to just subtract the x from each side. And what you'll see here is we have the square root of 5x plus 6 minus x equals 0. Remember, we're just going to treat this like it's a function when we graph it. This is one you're going to want to use your graphing calculator for, because we have not gone over how to graph this type of function. So I'm going to click over here so you can kind of see where we're at. And you're going to see now I've already typed in this function into my graphing calculator. the square root of 5x plus 6, and then we're subtracting the x on the outside. Make sure that x is on the outside there. When I graph it, you're going to see the shape that you really probably haven't seen. You'll see it starts over here kind of near the point negative 1, 1, right? It's not exactly right there. That's just kind of a rough estimate. Okay, but we're going to, so you can kind of see where that's at over there. All right, but then what we're concerned about is the x-intercept. So we followed over here, and you see here that it intersects the x-axis at 6. So when we go back to our document here that we're using for our notes, right, we can kind of copy that graph on here. You could just say it started near negative 1, 1. We'll put that point there. We know there's a point at 6, 0. Okay, and then one more time, we'll just jump back over there. It crosses the y-axis, it looks like between 2 and 3, and this is just a sketch. This is just a sketch, so it doesn't have to be exact, but we're going to put that point between 2 and 3 here, so we know that this graph kind of made this shape. Okay, but our focus right now is right here, that it crosses the x-axis at positive 6. So we've just validated this solution here that 6 works, but you see here x equals negative 1, it does not cross the x-axis there, which means that is going to be an extraneous solution. Okay, and we'll mark that a little bit more down here, but it says where can you see the solutions on your graph? Those are our x-intercepts, and that was 6, 0 on that one. And it says check your answers by graphing the equation as a system to find the x coordinates. So again, we're going to take our original equation, 5x plus 6 equals x. I'm sorry, the square root of 5x plus 6 equals x. And we're going to break that into a system here. So we're going to do 1 in blue. We'll do 1 in green, and we'll probably have to use the graphing calculator to help us a little bit again on this one. So we've got y equals the square root of 5x plus 6, and y equals x. So I'm going to jump back to the graphing calculator again. Sorry, we're jumping back and forth so much. We'll go in. I'm going to go ahead and just delete out the minus x. And then we're going to give that its own function here. And then we're going to graph it. So now our square root function, which is the yellow one on this graph here, you see it looks more like what you're used to seeing here. Looks like it starts between, really close to negative 1, 0, and then goes up here. We got an intersection point at the point 6, 6 as it continues on. And then our green is obviously the line y equals x. So going back to it here, if you want to sketch that in, our blue function, start really close to negative 1. We know it went through the point 6, 6. So since it's just a sketch, we'll just take it there and go out like that. We know that's what the square root function looks like. And then our other graph there was y equals x, which is just going up 1 over 1. So we'll draw that guy in here. And you'll see that our intersection point is right here at the point 6, 6. Well, that's the solution to this system. But remember, our original equation, we're just looking for x. So are there extraneous solutions? Yes. The extraneous solution we had there, x equals negative 1. Okay, that's our extraneous solution. Our actual solution here for the equation is going to be that x equals 6. If you have questions, make sure you mark them down. Please bring them to class and we'll talk about them, or go to Math Help if you like them better. All right.